Hi everyone, today we are looking at a PSLE 2019 paper question, particularly focusing on the questions, that requires a little bit more thinking, deep thinking. All right, so this is my job. My job is to really help you to understand questions and to make it simplified for you. And yeah, I hope that this videos, this PSLE series will be something that you like and something that you can benefit from. Okay, so without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, as you can see over here, it says that the figure is made up of 3 squares. I think the word squares is very important because that tells me that the angles at the side, they all are 90 degree. All right, so what we want to do is we want to make sure we show that all of these are 90 degree. Okay, and these are very important. You will see it in a bit. All right, so what can we first do? I think the first thing we can do is really to find out the angle over here. All right, so the angle over here basically requires me to do 180 degree minus 128 degree. Okay, and that gives me 52 degree. All right, so what I want to do is I want to make sure I annotate it inside the diagram. Okay, of course, if you're a student, you definitely want to use a pencil. And if you know that this is 90, then you can definitely find out what is this. So we just simply have to do 180 degrees minus 52 degrees minus 90 degree. All right, and that gives me 38 degree. Okay, so same thing, annotate it inside. Okay, so you can write that down. What else do we have? We can also confidently find out what is this. Okay, so our job is to always inch closer to what the question wants us to find, which is x. Right, as you can see over here, I started from here, and then that's when I progressed to here. And as I progress closer, I realized that hey, or the more angles that I find, the more the closer I will get to the angle that I want to get to. All right, so now as you can see over here, we know that this whole thing is 90 degree. Okay, as you can see from my cursor, this is 90 degrees. So to find out what is this, I just simply have to do 90 degree minus 38 degree, and that gives me 52 degree. So what I want to do is I want to put 52 degree over here. Now, once I'm done with this, right, I can also see that since this is a straight line, and if this is 90 degree, this must be 90 degree as well. So therefore, I can find out what is that. So I simply just have to do 180 degrees minus 90 degree minus 52 degree, and that gives me 38 degree. And I can also note it down that this is 38 degree. All right, so once I'm done with this, of course, I can find angle x. So angle x is simply just 180 degrees minus 38 degrees, and that gives me 142 degrees. And therefore, your answer for this question has to be 142 degrees, and you have just earned yourself 3 marks. Now, let's move on to the next question. Now, as you can see over here, this is question number 7, and it says that the bar graph shows the number of books read by class 6A from January to April. All right, so what you want to first do is, of course, to write down, the data, the numbers, the values, but you realize that there are actually no values given, right? So what can you do? Okay, so what I like to do is I like to call them units instead. So you can see over here, this is simply just 1 unit, this is 2 unit, 3 units, so and so forth. All right, 4 unit, and finally the bold line will be 5 units. So we know that this is 10 units, so we want to write it down first. And for this, it will be, since this is 10 units, right? So it goes in multiples of 5. So this is 15 units and this is 20 units. So over here, we will write down 20 units. For March itself, this is 9, 8, so 8 units over here. For April, that would be 22 units. Okay, so all of these things are very, very important. You may not have the exact number, but you can call them by units. Okay, now the question wants us to find the percentage increase in the number of books read from January to February. So the first thing first, you have to write down January is basically 10 units, and then for February, okay, we want to see whether if it's an increase or decrease. And as you can see over here, if I jump from 10 units to 20 units, it is definitely an increase. But the question is increased by how much, right? Now, so what you want to do is, of course, whenever you see that, hey, they're asking for percentage increase, you want to write increase, okay, over the original, all right, times 100. Okay, and it will always be like that. Why did I times 100? Because the question is asking us for percentage. So once the question asks you for percentage, you have to multiply by 100. So what is the increase? The increase over here, as you can see, it's 10 over the original, which is also 10. Why is it that I say increase is 10? Because you simply do 20 minus 10. right? Okay, so you times 100, and therefore your answer for this question has to be 100% increase from January to February. Okay, so A is done. All right, so what we want to do is we want to move on to B. Now, in B, it says that the average, oh my goodness, the moment I see average, okay, and they started to tell us the number of months, okay, was 75. The first thing I want to do is to find my total. Okay, so I can write down the average from January, okay, to April is actually equals to is equals to 75. And what you want to do is quickly find out your total. How do you find your total? You simply just have to do average times the number of months. Okay, so as you can see over here is 75 times 4. All right, and you will get to an answer of 300. Okay, so this is the total number of books from January to April. Now, then the question asks us, how many books did class A read in how many books did class A read in April? Now, so 300 is basically all of these things add up together. So what you can do is simply say this, that January is 10 units, February is 20 units, March 8 units, April 22 units. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to add all of these things up together. 10 plus 20, that gives me 30, 38. 38 plus 22, therefore is 60 units. And 60 units is actually equals to 300. You want to find your Mr. Greenman first. Okay, so you simply do 300 divided by 60, we get to 5. Okay, now what are you going to do next? You can read the question. How many books did class A read in April? April, as you can see over here, is 22 units according to my bar graph. So we find 22 units, we just have to do 5 times 22. And therefore, my answer for this question has to be 110. And of course, you want to input your answer for the first one, which is 100%. And as you can see over here, you have just earned yourself 3 marks easily. So now we are looking at question number 8. Now, as you can see over here, it says that a box contained black beads and white beads. Okay, so in sentence number 1, is there anything that you need to do? Nothing. What you want to go on is that you want to read in sentence number 2, it says that at first, the number of black bits was 1/3 the number of blue bits. Okay, whenever you see this, right, it says was 1/3 the number of. Now, of is for white bits, and of, it's always the denominator. All right, we call this is over of, was over of. Now, was is always the numerator. So since of is closest to white, white will be the denominator. Therefore, white is 3 units, and for black, it will be 1 unit. Okay, so that's the first thing that you want to do. You know that black is simply just 1 unit. White is simply 3 units. Now, and then if we continue to read sentence number 3, you realize that it says after 1/4 of the black bits and 3/8 of the white bits were used. Okay, whenever you want to do this, right? I know a lot of you know that, oh, I just have to do 1/4 times 1 unit. But the issue with that is this, is that when you do 1/4 times 1 unit, you get to 1/4 units. And we try not to get there. We want it to be a whole number. Okay, so what I would do is I would look at the denominator and I will ask myself, am I able to change the value of this to a multiple of 4 or 8? All right, now as you can see over here, if I were to change it to a multiple of 4, then laterwards I will have to change it to a multiple of 8 again. So might as well I change it to a multiple that will help me to fulfill both 4 and 8, which means to say I will just times 8 to this and now times 8 to this. So as you can see over here, this will be 8 units and this will be 24 units. And I think this will make my life easier. Let me explain to you why, okay? Now, it says that after 1/4 of the black bits were used, okay? So I'm going to take out used, all right? And what is the hidden information over here will be left, okay? 1/4 used, so 1/4 times 8 units. When I do 1/4 times 8 units, I get to 2 units. And this is a beautiful number, all right? I do not want it to be a decimal. I do not want it to be a mixed number. I want a whole number. And that it's only possible if you were to change it all into a multiple of 8. Okay, now, and over here for white will be used again, same thing. And then, of course, my hidden information must be left, right? And you see 3/8 times. Why times? Because of the word of, all right? Of what? Of the white bits. And I have 24 units of the white bits, okay? All right, so you do 3/8 times 24, and you get to 9 units. Now, so what you can do is quickly find out what is left. Over here, this is 6 units. How did I get to 6 units? I did 8 units. I minus away 2 units, and that's how I get to 6 units. And as for white, I'll do 24 units minus 9 units, and I'll get to 15 units. Okay, now once you're done with this question, you can move on to the next part. It says in sentence number 4 that 63 beats were left. So let's take a look at left, and I realize that it is simply just 15 units plus 6 units, which will give me 21 units, and 21 units is simply 63. So you find your Mr. Green Man, and you realize that 1 unit is 3. Okay, now the question wants us to find what fraction of the beats were used. Okay, for that it is very, very simple. All right, for A, we already have our answer, used over the total. And you will see that used is simply just 9 units and 2 units. Okay, 2 units and 9 units. You add them up together over the total, which is 24 plus 8. All right, why is that the total? As you can see over here, this is the total for the black, which is 8 units, and total for the white, which is 24 unit. And over here, you get to 11 over 32. You can further simplify. So this is your answer for A. Now, so once I'm done with this, I can go on to B. All right, now in B, it says how many beats were there in the box at first. So since I know that 1 unit is 3, I just have to find at first, and that means to say 32 units. So therefore, all I need to do is simply just 3 times 32, and I'll get to an answer of 96 beats. And this is my answer for the second part of this question. Now, in question number 9, as you can see over here, it says that the parameter of figure A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so let's use our fingers, or maybe if you can highlight it. All right, you can see that A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E is 10p plus 11 cm. Please note that it does not include A, E. All right, now it says that the perimeter of square ABDE is 12 cm. So when you look at a square, you know that the perimeter is 12 cm. What do you want to do? You want to quickly do 12 divided by 4, and you get to 3 cm. What exactly is this 3 cm? It is basically everything over here. Okay, and I think these are very, very important measurements. Okay, now over here it says to find the perimeter of triangle BCD. So where is BCD? BCD is basically whatever that is over here and whatever that is over here. So since you know that all of these red color highlighted portions, okay, are basically 10p plus 11, what you want to do is simply write this down. All right, that 3. So I'm going to start from here. I'm just going to put a tick plus BC plus CD plus another 3. Okay, so I'm done with this, I'm done with this, and I'm done with this. And then when I add these up together, I get to 10p plus 11. All right, so whenever you get to an equation like that, you want to make sure that the same families sit together. 3 and 3 will be together, so that it becomes 6. All right, BC plus CD remains as BC plus CD. All right, 10p plus 11 remains as 10p plus 11. What you want to do is you want to bring the 6 over. All right, when you bring 6 over, you minus. So BC plus CD is equals to 10p plus 11 minus 6. BC plus CD is equals to 10p plus 5. All right, so this is what you will get. And according to the question, they just want you to find the perimeter of triangle BCD. So they are not including this part that I'm going to highlight in green. All right, they are not asking you for that. All right, they just want B to C, C to D. And the word in terms of P, it means that my answer should have P. And therefore, my answer for A has to be this. All right, so how you would write it? You write this as 10P plus 5. And remember to put in your units as cm, not cm squared, because we are talking about perimeter. Okay, now, so once I'm done with this, right, I want to go on to B. In B, it says that the perimeter of figure A, B, C, D, E, all right, which is what they have stated in the earlier part of the question, is 31 cm. So what is the value of P? So they want you to find the value of P. All you need to do is just write down that 10P plus 11 is equals to 31. Remember, same family sit together. So 10P is equals to, when I bring 11 over, I minus. All right, 31 minus 11. So 10p is equals to 20, and p will then be 20 divided by 10. If you're wondering, how did you even do 20 divided by 10? Because I asked myself, right, how do I get from 10 to 1? All right, now when I write p, it means that it is 1p. All right, so I divide by 10 over here, and when I do that, when I do something to my left, I must do something to my right. So that's the reason why I divide by 10 as well. And over here, you get to p is equals to 2. And therefore, your answer for part B has to be 2. As we move on to question number 10, as you can see over here, this is obviously a ratio question. All right. So what we want to do is, of course, read the first part of the sentence. It says that at first the ratio of number of boys to the number of girls is actually 4:1. And what happens in sentence number 2 is that 6 boys and 6 girls join the club. So we plus 6 over here, we plus 6 over here, and the ratio became 3:1. So because of this, right, I can confidently say that this is a constant difference question. Why is it constant difference? Because the difference should not change. Why is it that the difference should not change? Because, the same amount of boys and girls were added into the club. So you can see over here that the difference in my first ratio is 3 and the difference in my second ratio is 2. All right. And because of that, what we want to do is we want to make our ratio the same for difference. Okay. So that's the reason why I times 2 to my first ratio, and then after that I times 3. All right, so what I will get would be 8:2:6. And over here you get to 9:3:6. Okay, so once the difference is the same, you can start working on it. Now, the first part of the question is a little special. It says, what did the percentage of members who are boys increase, decrease, or remain the same? So they want us to fix our eyes on the number of boys, okay? And over here it says percentage of members, which means to say members will be my denominator, okay? So what I want to do is I want to find out what is the percentage of members who are boys in my first ratio. So what I will do is I will say boys over members times 100. And you see that boys in the first ratio is actually 8. All right. If you cannot find the 8, follow my cursor. This is the 1. All right. Over the number of members, the number of members is basically everything over here, which is equals to 10. So when you times 100, you get to 80% over here. So this is my before. All right. After 6 boys join, what happens is that my boys over my members will definitely change. Okay. So same thing, we are going to times 100. Now, boys in my second part is 9 over my members. Number of members is 9 plus 3. So you can write down 9 plus 3 times 100. So when you do 9 over 9 plus 3 times 100, you get to 75%. So this is my after. So you can see from here itself, right? The percentage of members who are boys actually decrease, okay? And decrease by how much? Decrease by 5%, as you can see over there. So we write down that the percentage of members who are boys decrease. Now, and then in B, right? In B is pretty straightforward. It says in the end, so you want to fix your eyes on in the end, how many boys were there in the club? So we can see that it went from 8 to 9, isn't it? So why is there a jump of 1 unit? Because 6 boys have joined. So 1 unit is equals to 6. They want us to find how many boys were there in the club. We have to find 9 units. So we simply do 6 times 9. And therefore, I will get to an answer of 54. And this is my answer for part B of question number 10. Now, let's move on to question number 12. As you can see over here, it says that Mr. Lim used 2 machines with different printing rates for printing job. He started machine A at 12. So we go to our graph and we look at machine A. Machine A started at 12 and machine B 2 minutes later, which is also presented in my graph, right? And we can see that he stopped both machines at 12:05. Okay, so if you can follow my cursor, you can see that this is 12:05, and for this, it stopped at 12:05 as well. So this goes to show that Mr. Lim definitely used machine A longer than machine B, right? So now let's get to the question. Now the question says, how many pages have been printed by machine A at the time Mr. Lim started machine B? Now, so we want to first decipher what is the time Mr. Lim started machine B. Mr. Lim started machine B at 12:02. Okay, so let's go to machine A's graph and we see for ourselves that machine A at 12:02, it is at this point over here. Okay, so of course, right, all you need to do is to trace it all the way back using your pencil, of course. Okay, I apologize, I don't have a ruler, so it looks very crooked. All right, but what I would do is I would just say that this is the point that we are looking for. All right, now from here itself, right, if you were to just refer to your graph, you realize that every line over here represents 10. So this is 110. 120, 130, 140, 150. So this is the point that we are looking at, and therefore my answer for this part, all right, A has to be 140. Okay, now what was the total number of pages printed by the two machines from 12 to 12:05? So first thing first, let's take a look at machine A. All right, so we are going to split it up. We are going to find machine A, then we are going to find machine B, then we are going to add them up together. Okay, so let's talk about machine A. Machine A, from 12 all the way to 12:05, the maximum point here is 350. So therefore, for machine A, all right, from 12 to 12:05, it has produced 350 pages, or printed 350 pages. Whereas for machine A, because I apologize. Whereas for machine B started at a later time. Machine B started at 12:02. So machine B started from here all the way to this point, and we can see that at this point, right? So I'm just going to same thing, dot it. Okay, if you have a ruler, do draw the line and note down that this is the point that we are looking at. And as you can see over here, every interval is 10. So this is definitely 270. So machine B is 270. So when you want to find the total, all you need to do is just simply 350 plus 270, that gives me 620, and that's it for B. All right, so your answer for this part has to be 620. Now then we go on, which is C. All right, C could be, a trickier question. All right, and in C you realize that they are asking you for which machine A or B has a faster printing rate. So whenever that question appears, you first have to ask yourself, okay, all right, the first thing that you have to do is to find out how much is machine A printing. All right, so what we can see is that machine A started at 12 and ended at 12:05. That means to say machine A has been printing for 5 minutes. Okay, so this is MA. MA stands for machine A. So machine A has been printing for 5 minutes. And how much did machine A print for the entire 5 minutes? We know that it is 350. So what we like to do is to always get to your Mr. Green Man. And we know that it is 70. So every minute A will produce 70. Whereas for B, okay, I'm going to use another color, all right? So for machine B, machine B started later, right? So machine B started at 12:02, ended by 12:05. So therefore, machine B used 3 minutes. Okay, and in 3 minutes, machine B was able to print 270. So we always get to our Mr. Green Man, all right, and we know that it is 270 divided by 3, and that gives me 90. Now then, if you're wondering, why do you have to get to 1 minute? Why can't you just use or compare 5 minutes for machine A and 3 minutes for machine B? Because when they are different, you cannot compare. All right, you can only compare when both machine A and machine B are the same. So that is the reason why I want to get to 1 minute. All right, so you compare 1 minute of machine A versus 1 minute of machine B. All right, then that's when you can compare. Now, so we know, all right, that definitely machine B is faster. Why is it that machine B is faster? Because machine B is able to print 90 pages in 1 minute, whereas for machine A it is just 70. So you can answer the first part of the question. All right, I will just put MB, of course. For you spell the whole thing, and the question is asking in the later part, in the second part, it says the difference. All right, the difference in the number of pages. So therefore you just have to do, all right, the difference in the number of pages in 1 minute. So you just have to do 90 minus 70, and therefore your answer for the second part of C has to be 20 pages. Now in question number 13, right, you can see that this is an angles question. Okay, so very importantly, do read the information given, okay, because the information given will really help you to solve this question. Without the information there, sometimes it may be very difficult. Now in the figure below, ABCD is a rectangle. So if you know it is a rectangle, you want to quickly note down that these are all of the right angle. Potentially look out for any diagonal lines, because the diagonal lines will tell you that it is 45 on each side, okay, if they have the diagonal lines, okay. So the first thing you want to do, right, is really to see whether if you are able to just find out any random, or and not random, but any angles that you can find. All right, now another thing you want to do is to ask yourself, if it is a rectangle, then we can confidently say that there are two pairs of parallel lines. How do I know that? Because this is parallel to this, and this is parallel to this line over here. Okay, I think that is a very important information. Okay, and because of that, right, I'm able to identify, all right, I'm able to identify a z angle, which is to me very important information. So let me just highlight it for you to see here, down to here, and here. All right, so you can see the z angle happening, right? So you want to make sure you note that down as well. Now, the first thing that I want to look out for, right, is actually angle FGE. So because this is a z angle, I can confidently say that this entire thing is also 86. All right, so if you can't see it, don't worry, just sketch out the z angle. And you know that this angle is equal to this angle. And in this angle, you can see that this is 86 degrees. So therefore, this whole angle has to be 86, which is actually here. So what we can confidently do is find FGE. Okay, we can simply just say 86 degrees minus away 48 degrees, and that gives me 38 degrees. So this part over here is 38 degrees. And according to the question, they want us to find FGE. So this is the one that I found, and I have just done it. All right, so now once that is done, right, you want to quickly find out what is this as well, which is angle FEG. All right, that is simply 180 degrees minus away 38 degrees minus away 92 degrees. Okay, you get to 50 degrees. Before you move on, right, you want to know what angle are you trying to find. Okay, no point finding every single angle and then not knowing what you're actually finding. So you can progress, but make sure you know what exactly you're finding. Or from the very beginning, you can start putting a question mark there. EDH. Okay, so this is the one that we want to find, and we want to inch closer to that angle. Okay, now, so well, this is just my first part, right? And then they continue on telling us that points F, G, H lie on the rectangle A, B, C, D. So point F, G, all right, and H, they lie on the rectangle A, B, C, D. And I find that the next point is also very important. It says that D, E, F. So where is D, E, F? D, F is here, here, and here. All right, D, F looks something like that if you can't see. And H, E, G. HEG is basically here, and we know that this actually is 50 degrees. Okay, if I may just show you the starting alphabets or the letters so that you have a better understanding. All right, so maybe I can even put E over here. Now, when I see that there are straight lines and they intersect, right, I can confidently say that this is what we call vertically opposite angle. All right, so that angle is basically HED. So HED is also equals to 50 degrees. And why is that so? Because this is a vertically opposite angle. So with that, right, I can quickly find out what is my next angle, which is EDH, and we can see that it exists in a triangle. So 180 degrees minus 86 degrees minus 50 degrees. All right, when you do that, you get to an answer of 44 degrees. And this is my answer for the next question, part B of question 13. As we move on to question 15, okay, I would say this is possibly one of the trickiest volume questions that students need to know. All right, so I will try my best, to explain to you, to simplify processes to get to the answer. Now, as you can see over here, it says that Jack has 8 identical large cubes. Now, let's break down the meaning of 8 identical large cubes. It means that all 8 cubes are the same. Okay, so that's the first thing that you want to know. All right, now, and then we do not know how many small cubes, but we know that they are all the same as well. All right, same in terms of their length, same in every aspect. What did this person do? Jack packs all the cubes tightly into a rectangular box, as you can see over here, such that cubes of the same size are stacked on top of each other, meaning to say large on top of large, small on top of small. And the box is filled to its brim exactly. Okay, so there are no spaces left unpacked. Okay, everything is packed tightly all the way to its brim, to the highest point. The figure below shows the first layer of cubes packed in the box. So this is the first layer. When I look at the first layer, I can see from many, many perspectives, right? So if I want, I can see from the first perspective, which is when I have one large, I will have two small. That is the first perspective that I can see. Well, I can also see that when I have two large, I will have 3 small. All right, which means to say the length, okay, so I'm going to write it over here. The length of 2 large is the same as the length of 3 small. And I think this will serve me very well, right? Because knowing that the length of 2 large is the same as the length of 3 small will help me to find the number of large cubes and the number of small cubes. All right, so the length of 2 large is equals to the length of 3 small. So what I want to do is maybe I can possibly just draw it out first, okay? From a 2D perspective, I'm going to start looking at the front view. So this is the one that I'm going to draw. Okay, I'll just highlight it for you so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now, when I see that I have one large, this is a large cube, I will have 2 small over here. Now, if I were to go back to what I've written over here, which is possibly one of the most important information that will help you to determine how many large and how many small in this rectangular box, I will draw 2 large because the length of 2 large, right? So this is simply just 1 large, right? This is just one length of the large cube. So if I have 2 large, what happens? How many small will I have? I will have 1 more small over here, and finally I have another small over here. Right? Why is that so? Let me highlight it for you again. Can you see? This is the length of 2 large, right? The ones that I've highlighted in yellow. And I'm going to highlight the length of the 3 small, 1, 2, 3 in green. Can you see that? So when you do something like this, you always have to find out what is the same, right? So if you know that 2 large is equals to 3 small, you are able to sketch this out. Okay, so now do you remember just now the question told us that they have 8 identical large cubes? Now, do you remember that this is my front view? Okay, this is my front view, which means to say there is also another back view. All right, there is also another back view. So I'm just going to use my front view to help me. Now, I know a lot of you will just think that, oh, but I only have 2 cubes over here. That means I have to draw 8. That's not true because this is just the front view. So there are 2 cubes or 2 large cubes in front, and then there will also be 2 large cubes behind. So we know that this is just half of the box. Okay? So since I'm just looking at the front, okay, what I want to do is, since I know half of the box I will have 2 large, it means that the other half I will also have 2 large. Okay, so this is another half of the box. All right, so that's the first thing that I want to do. Now, if 2 large is equals to 3 small, then I can also confidently do or draw this one. All right, so as you can see over here, it is the same thing, all right, whereby the length of 2 large, 1, 2, is the same as the length of 3 small, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so these are all very important information. Now, the question wants us to find how many small cubes. Okay, so do remember that we are, or whatever that I've sketched here, it is just for the front view. So you will not tell them that, oh, I have 6 and then 6, 12 cubes in total, 12 small cubes in total. That is not true. All right, so let's take a look at the first half. Okay, now, if I have 2, 4, 6 in front, or in fact, we can just use, the first 2 to help us. All right, you see, if I have 2 small in front, how many do I have at the back? 2 more, or in fact 4 more, right? So in total, this is actually 6. All right, so do not forget what is behind. So 6 over here. So this is also 6. 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 So in total, as you can see over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's simply just 6 times 6. All right, so therefore there are a total of 36 small cubes in this container. All right, so that is my answer for the first part. Okay, then we go on to second part, which is fairly simple. All right, it says that the volume of the box is 4032. Okay, so this is the volume of the box, which means to say, I have all of the large, all of the small. When I add them up together, I get to 4032. Now, then they continue to say that the total volume of the 8 large cubes is 3/7 the volume of the box. Now, ease over off. Now, what do I mean by ease over off? This is ease over off, all right? Is 3/7, that means to say the 3 units goes to the 8 large cubes. And if the 3 unit goes to the 8 large cubes, the 7 unit goes to the volume of the box. So what about the volume of the 36 small cubes? That will basically means 7 units minus 3 units, which is equals to 4 units. Okay, so we know that the volume of the box is 7 units, so we can just simply say that 7 units is equals to 4032. All right, so when we do 4032 divided by 7, we get to Mr. Greenman, which is 576. What I want to find is the volume of the 36 small cubes. So 576 times 4, we get to 2304. Now, 2304 is the volume of 36 small cubes, okay? According to the question, they want us to find the length of one each of the small cubes. So let's first find one small cube. So if I know that 36 small cube is actually equals to 2304, I can find one small cube. One small cube will then be 2304 divided by 36, and we get to 64. Now, so this is just the volume of one small cube. All right, what we want is the length. Okay, so how do we get to this 64? It's just L times B times H. But the good news I have for you is that because L, B, and H, they are all the same, to find the length of one H, okay, so what is the meaning of length of one H? They just want this one over here. So what times what is equals to 64. To find out each of this, because they're all the same, we just have to do cube root 64, and we will get to an answer of 4 cm. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this is 4 cm. Okay, so the question wants us to find the age of the small cube. Therefore, your answer for this question for part B has to be 4 cm. As we look at question number 16, you realize that this is a circus question, and as you can see over here, it says that the figure is formed by 5 identical semicircles, and I guess it's pretty obvious to everyone that, the 5 identical semicircles that they are talking about is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Now, my approach for a measurement question, for a circus question, is to always make sure I write down whatever measurements I know, okay? But unfortunately, in this question, right, you are not able to find out what is this over here. Okay, you're not able to find out all of these gaps. Okay, if you can see from my cursor, the parts that I'm pointing to. Okay, so what I would prefer to do is to say that whatever that is over here is actually equals to whatever that is over here. So what I'm doing right now is to say that the top layer is actually equals to the bottom layer. So here's what I would do. Okay, the first thing I would do is to say that this entire semicircle, which is the diameter, is 1 unit. All right, I want the diameter to be 1 unit. Okay, and whatever that is over here is 12. Okay, so like what I always say, to write down whatever you know. In this question, here's how I would do it. All right, whatever that is over here is just 1 unit. So every diameter, okay, for the diameter of a semicircle, we will call it 1 unit. Okay, so then we have over here as 12, and we have whatever there is over here as 1 unit again. Okay, then when I move on to my bottom part, okay, you can see that the whole thing over here, all right, the whole thing over here from here to here is 1 unit. The diameter of the semicircle is 1 unit. So you realize that the blue color parts are actually equals to the red color parts. Okay, so let's list down the red color parts first. Okay, we can say that 1 unit plus 12 plus 1 unit plus 12 plus 1 unit is actually equals to the blue color part, which is 22 plus 1 unit plus 16 plus 1 unit plus 22. All right, so what you want to do is you want to solve, the red color parts first. Okay, so since you see 1 unit, 1 unit, and 1 unit, we say 3 units. 12 and 12, that gives me 24. Okay, and that is equal to 1 unit, 1 unit, that is 2 units. Okay, and of course, the other parts, all right, when we do 22 plus 16, we get 260. Okay, so same family sit together. What I want to do is I want to move 2 units over to this side. When I move 2 units over, I minus, and when I move 24 over, I minus as well. Whatever that you have not moved, you write down first. So 3 units is over here. I move 2 units over, so minus 2 units is equals to 60. I did not move. I bring 24 over, so I minus 24. Okay, so over here, 3 units minus 2 unit, that gives me 1 unit. And when I do 60 minus 24, you can just write down the answer, and that is 36. Okay, so now 1 unit is 36, and this perfectly answers my question, all right, in A, whereby they want us to find the diameter of each semicircle. So therefore, your answer for A has to be 36 cm. Okay, now then when I move on to the next part, right, I realize that the question wants us to find the perimeter of the figure. So whenever it is the perimeter, my encouragement to you is, of course, if you can note down the perimeter, okay, you need to be very conscious of the parts that you are finding. All right, so I'm just going to highlight it, okay? And you can see that the arc length of a semicircle is basically what I need to find. And of course, not forgetting all of these straight lines. So the first thing I want to do is to definitely find the arc length of one semicircle. And then later words, what am I going to do? Because how many arc length do I have? I have 1 arc length over here, 2 arc length, and 3 arc length, 4 arc length, and 5 arc length. So if I 5, I'm just going to find 1 first. Okay, so I'm going to say that the arc length of one semicircle, all right? So the arc length of one semicircle will then be half times 2 pi r. Okay, so some prefers, to do half times pi d. Go ahead with that, not an issue at all. Half times 2 times pi times radius being 18. Why is it 18? Because if the diameter, remember the diameter that we have found in part A, it tells me that it's 36, so radius has to be half. Now, if you're wondering, but I thought the question asked you to use calculator pi. Yes, the question did, but here's what I would do, okay? I would first make sure that these 3 are multiplied together. So half times 2, that gives me 1. 1 times 18, I still get to 18. And I prefer to just leave it in terms of pi first. Why is that so? Because if I were to punch the calculator, if I were to include the pi into it or multiply the pi into it, I will be getting, lots of decimal places, and that is not something that I want. So what you want to do is you leave it as a calculator, leave it in terms of pi first. Later words, in your final answer, that's when you include the pi. Of course, you have to remember to include your pi, okay? So I know the arc length of 1 semicircle. What I want to do is I want to find the arc length of 5 semicircle. All right, so 18 pi times 5. Okay, when you do that, you get to a beautiful answer of 90 pi. Now, the moment you have 90 pi, right, do remember to add in the straight lines. Okay, what are the straight lines? We have 12, we have 12, we have 22, we have 16, and we have 22. So again, don't go by memory. Okay, you can write down over here that the total perimeter will then be 90 pi. Okay, so how do you go about that? Very simple, just put a tick whenever you are done adding it in. Okay, so I have added 12 over here. Now the next thing that I'm going to add right now would be 12 again. So I'm just going to add another 12 over here. And then of course, the next thing that I'm going to add would be 22. So just put a tick there to remind yourself or to kind of notify yourself that you have added that. Okay, because especially when you come back to check, I think that's very important. After 22, we have 16. So just put a tick over here and then quickly note it down. Once that is done, look at the last one, which is 22. All right, so you add all of these things up together, you get to 90 pi. Of course, the numbers with the numbers. Okay, when you do 12 plus 12, that is 24. 24. All right, and then when you do 24 plus 22, that is 46 plus 16 plus 22, and therefore over here has to be plus 84. Okay, not forgetting, right, to punch in 90 pi plus 84, and you will get to an answer of 366.74 cm. All right, and this is your answer for part B. Okay. So now let's take a look at question number 17, which is a patterns question, which is also the last question of PSLE 2019. Now, as you can see over here, it says that the number of white triangles, okay, in figure number 1, right, is actually 1. Okay, and figure number 2 is 1, figure number 3 is 6, figure number 4 is 6. Now, when you look at this pattern, you realize that the pattern is not that obvious, alright? It is not like the intervals are the same. So when that happens, don't worry, go back to the figure, which is over here. Okay, so this is the figure that I'm referring to, and see whether if you are able to see a pattern. Okay, now when I look at the white ones, okay, I want you to look at the white triangles, and I realize that it is always 1 on top. All right, it is always 1 at the top. And as we progress, you realize that the gray triangles is 3, and then followed by 3, and then 3 again. All right, and what about the white triangles in figure number 3? See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then this must be 5 as well. And for the gray will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what we can see from here is that they are going in odd numbers. All right, so you can see how they derive to 6 white triangles in the first part, 1 and 5, right? So that means to say, right, for figure number 5, okay, it should be in this manner as well. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. 1 being white, gray, white, gray, and finally white. So when you see this, right, you realize that you are able to find the number of white triangles, right? Because for white triangles, we just have to look at 1 plus 5 plus 9. So for this itself, is simply just 1 plus 5 plus 9. 9 plus 1 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15. So therefore, your answer for this part is 15. And for this one, it will then be gray plus gray. So over here, it has to be 3 plus 7, which gives me 10. Okay, so first part of this question settled. All right, now, so I am done with A. I just want to put the tick there to kind of, make me feel, or, just having that tick there could be a sense of satisfaction. All right, so at least that's for me. Okay, I don't know about you, but you can try that out. I love to check things off to help me realize that, hey, I've done this specific task. Okay, now, they want us to find the total. So whenever they want the total, right, what I like to do is I like to create, a row of my own, and I want to see total is, of course, you do white plus gray. So 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 plus 3, that gives me 4. 6 plus 3, that gives me 9. 10 plus 6, that gives me 16. 15 plus 10, that gives me 25. And when I do these, I realize that these are all what we call square numbers. I say that again, square numbers, which comforts me a lot, because if I know that these are square numbers, it will make my life a lot easier, right? So that's the reason why, I always encourage my students to identify the type of patterns. It is not just any random patterns question, right? So over here, there's 1 to the power of 2, this is 2 to the power of 2, this is 3 to the power of 2, this is 4 to the power of 2, this is 5 to the power of 2. And you realize that the figure number and the square numbers, they are the same. Okay, so for B itself, if they want us to find, the total number of white and gray triangles in figure 250, all right, so what I like to do is I like to use something small first to kind of show me exactly what is the process. So let's say if I want to find the total number, of white and gray squares in figure number 2, I will then do 2 to the power of 2, and that gives me 4. Therefore, for figure number 250, I will just simply have to do 250 to the power of 2, and that will bring me to an answer of 62,500. And therefore, this is my answer for part B. Now, as I progress to part C, alright, I realized that part C wants us to find the percentage of the triangles that are gray. Okay, so out of this 62,500, are we able to find out how many are white and how many are gray? Well, just by looking at this, it is not going to help you, right? So what I like to do is I like to use something simpler. So let's use, maybe say figure number 2 to help us. Okay, let's just use figure number 2 to help us. Now for figure number 2, we know that the total, all right? For figure number 2, we know that total. So I'm just going to write over here. Okay, using figure number 2, I know that my total is 4. Okay, so I know that my total is 4. What I like to do is I can possibly, use number bonds to help me. So if I know that my total is 4, white and gray will then be white being 1 and gray being 3. Now from here itself, right, I realized that there is something that I can do, which is to show that the difference here is actually 2. All right, and the difference corresponds to, or I would say matches to the figure number. Okay, so let's try for figure number 3. When it comes to figure number 3, all right, for figure number 3, let's see. For figure number 3, in total I have 9. Okay, so my total is 9, and that is my whole. For white and gray, how many do I have in figure number 3? For white is 6. For gray is 3, and you can see over here that the difference is also 3, and this matches to my figure number, right? So the difference matches to my figure number. Let's try figure number 4. For figure number 4, the total is actually 16. So we have 16 as the total. Okay, for white and gray, that would be 6 and 10. So we have 6 and 10, and therefore the difference here will be 4. And this also matches to my figure number. So this proves a point that for figure number 250, all right, I know that my total is 62,500. Of course, for now, I do not know what's my white and gray, but one thing I know for sure is that my difference corresponds or matches to my figure number. So therefore, my difference must be 250. So if you know that the difference between your white and gray is 250, what you want to do is you want to draw a comparison model. Okay, now there's one thing for sure, right? Is that do we know which is the one that has more? Is it the gray or the white? So this brings me to my next point, right? I go back to my small figure number, all right, the one that are simpler. I want to see which is greater. When I look at figure number 2, I realize that figure number 2, white is smaller, gray is bigger. Figure number 3, white is greater, gray is smaller. Figure number 4, white is smaller, gray is bigger. So I see like it is going in alternate basis. So whenever that happens, right, you can use even and odd to help you. So you see, when the figure number is even, all right, when the figure number is even, what happens? That white is smaller. Right? If you don't believe, we can look at figure number 4, because figure number 4 is also an even number. You can see that y is smaller. Isn't that true? So then when it is odd, gray is smaller. Gray is smaller. So let's ask ourselves, okay? Of course, you can try out more, all right? You can go and test out figure number 5, 6, 7, to get a better understanding. But for figure number 250, you realize that figure number 250 is definitely an even number, right? So even, which means to white must be smaller. So therefore, if white is smaller, my gray has to look way bigger than white. How much bigger? 250. What is my total? 62,500. Okay, so what I can do is quickly find out what is 1 unit and 1 unit. All right, so we can say that 2 units is simply just 62,500 minus away 250. So 2 units is simply just 62,250. Now, when you have this, of course, you want to find one unit first. So you get to 62,250 divided by 2. We get to 31,125. And we know that this is for white. And of course, I want to find gray as well, right? So for gray itself, it will then be 31,125 plus 250. All right, and that gives me 31,375. Now, once I'm done with this, right, what I want to do is go back to the question because I still have not found out the percentage of the triangles that are gray in figure number 250. So to find out the percentage of the triangles, when you see it is of the triangles, it means that triangles will be my denominator. I say that again, the total number of triangles will be my denominator and gray will then be in my numerator. So if I may just show it to you, all right, it should look something like this. Gray over the total triangle in figure 250. All right, so with that in mind, what I want to do is I want to quickly write it out. Okay, so gray, how many gray triangles do I have in figure number 250? We learned that it is 31,375. All right, so this is the first thing that I want to do. And I ask myself, what is the total number of triangles in figure number 250? We know that is 62,500. Now, the moment you have all of these things, what you want to do is because of the word percentage, okay, what I want to do is I want to quickly multiply by 100. And when you do that, you'll get to an answer of 50.2%. And this is your answer for part C of question 17.